Welcome to Beyond the Press Release, a production of Agoracom, in which we take the time to speak with small cap executives after they put out important news. With us today, happy to have him back. He was on a hiatus, then he came back to us last week. Now he's back again. Bernard Tourillon, Chairman, CEO, HPQ Silicon Resources, trades on the venture under HPQ, and for our friends in the US, HPQFF. For those of you new to the story, HPQ is a Canadian producer of silicon, building a portfolio of unique, high-value specialty silicon products that are needed for the renewable energy revolution, and they're doing it along with two world-renowned technology partners. More than just lip service, because we know a lot of companies are trying to use this, use this language for their own self-serving purposes. HPQ has received their first order for spherical nanosilicon material from a major auto manufacturer, undisclosed, and is also under NDA with at least 2 battery players. So they're definitely executing. In today's press release, HPQ Silicon and PyroGenesis evaluating a low-cost, environmentally friendly plasma-based process to manufacture fumed silica. Bernard, welcome back.
Hi.
What is fumed silica? Where did this come from?
It sort of made me laugh. You go the entire story about the battery. Says, okay, they're going to make fumed silica. People are going to be confused completely. But fused silica is really a material that is made out of quartz. Now, fumed silica is a additive in many of the products that people are using every day: paint, medical, pharmaceutical. So it's a high value product. But since the process to make it is pretty similar to the one to do polysilicon or to do silane gas, it has a lot of, nasty for the environment byproducts that come out, in addition to being extremely requiring a lot of energy. So it's an interesting product proposition that we have, and it starts with the same raw materials we're doing in silicone. So I think, PyroGenesis and HPQ have sort of developed a pathways where we can take brilliant ideas that fits very well in the overall environment, which is, greenhouse emission reduction, and develop a pathway to get those new technologies to market. So let me be very clear. This is an additional one. This is not a replacement, a substitute, or anything else. It's just another thing. I think we're going to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time.
Having said that, like you said in the intro, it's all about battery, renewable energy, and this just came almost out of nowhere, at least for me. So how did this come about? Is it, and how is it not a distraction from the core competency that you guys are building? But how did it come about? Who woke up one day and said, hey, we have a real market we can attack here?
Well, let's be realists. We're following the same business model that we did for the nano reactor for the PureVap. But we have learned something. So before we go, before we started going public and mainstream and talk about what we're doing, we make sure that, most of the dots are covered and all the points are covered before we start talking about it. Because we know that people are going to think it's a distraction, but it's not a distraction. I think PyroGenesis has demonstrated capacity to have multiple lines of product developed.
Sure, absolutely.
They've done the DROSRite, the 3D printing, powders. Didn't invent 3D printing, just the powders. Just want to stress this out, that I do know the difference. And they're now using their expertise on torch for the metal. Basically, it's PyroGenesis has multiple lines. This was a project that we're actually looking when we started in 2015. For a series of reasons, we went to silicon metal. PyroGenesis advanced the product independently, and they came back to me about a year and a half ago saying, would you be interested in continuing to participate with us in the development? Because it sort of makes sense, because the raw material that we're using is quartz. So it's the same type of quartz that we need for the end product. And lo and behold, it evolved to a position where it is. We've already done some market research. We have some people already interested in the product if we can deliver it the way it is. So it's just a natural extension. I think Peter said it well in his quote. It's just a natural extension. We work well together. Pyro develops the technology. We develop the marketing and the end user part of the business, and we'll continue to do that.
So this is much further advanced than at first read in the press release, because I'm going to quote the press release. evaluating the commercial opportunity of developing a plasma process that could convert silica into fume. So right there, it sounded to me like, okay, this sounds very, very preliminary. Evaluating the process that could convert into a final product. So you guys been thinking about this for a while.
Oh,
And you're pretty confident that you can attack this market.
Yes, we're not really worried about it. The beauty of it, it's going to be I'll use a term, relatively simple process. It's just, instead of using a multiple step process to make fumed silica, because fumed silica, fundamentally, as weird as it is you take quartz, SiO2, all right, converted silicone metal, make it go through the same process to make saline gas and polysilicon, and then at the end you burn that, okay, where by doing that you create a very nasty gas coming out, something like what's the exact scientific name? I can't remember it exactly.
Hydrogen chloride.
Hydrogen chloride gas. It's something very nasty. So you produce that as a side effect to recreate SiO2, okay? Because fumed silica is nothing else than SiO2 in a different format, in a different organization is back. So you take quartz, make it go mini process. Process is incredibly simple. You use plasma technology, which Pyro is a massive expertise. You take quartz, make it grow. I'm overly simplifying it. And I can't give away any trade secret because I don't fully understand. So that's very good. That's why they let me talk marketing. They don't put a science guy there. But fundamentally, the quartz goes through the plasma torch, and lo and behold, we create fumed silica by doing it. So yes, the project is much more advanced. If you look at the business strategy we've been developing for all our processes, and right now this would be our third process. So we have the grandfather one, which is the quartz reduction reactor, the PureVap QRR. This is the project that's a pilot plant, which will be operational pretty soon. I'll be coming up with an update relatively soon on where we are, where it's going, when it's going to start. So we got this project that's the most advanced. We then have the second project, which is the Nano reactor, which we started this one. We announced in 2019, we're evaluating that we're going to do this with Pyro, joint venture with Pyro, which has moved to where we are right now. And that process is in between phase, Gen 1 and Gen 2, Generation 1 and Generation 2 of machine. And then once we have the Generation 2, then we'll move to pilot plant and move forward. This project, the fumed silica, is already at the pilot plant phase. The next step for us is to build a pilot plant, get it operational, get sampled to client. We already have requests from clients.
So let me ask you about that. What clients, what kind, and I'm not asking you to name clients, but what kind of feedback are you getting? How were you reaching out to get feedback saying, hey, if you can produce this?
It's not very difficult.
Interested?
It's not very difficult. Every company now has to basically take in consideration their greenhouse emissions, okay, and the pollution vector. So that's a very, very key point. There's maybe a little bit of North American production. There's no production of the material in Canada, yet there's a market to use it. So it's a very bulky material. So it's not heavy, but it's bulky. So it's very expensive to ship. So we're following the same process of developing small modular system that we can get closer to end product usage. We'll make it greener, reduce the greenhouse emission by the source of energy we'll be using to convert it, and by the fact that we won't be generating any of the toxic gases that are produced as a result of the processes to convert the saline gas type materials into fumed silica. So we have this. So it's really an exciting line. It's an exciting line. It's an easier line overall than everything else because it's a product that already exists. It's been sold. If you meet the criteria, of the buyers, they'll be buying it. We know our cost is going to be cheaper than anybody else. We already know that we're going to be the cheapest producer. So it's sort of a no-brainer to do.
Do you have to target specific applications of it, or in general, just create it, ship it to manufacturers who will then use it in their own applications? So is it very fragmented, or is this $2.2 billion market, most of it just, No,
it's a fragmented with some big players into it, but pharmaceutical, And there's also some application related to batteries. There's also there's multiple application related to what you can use fumed silica. I got to be very careful because fumed silica and silica fumes are not the same thing. They sound similar, but not the same thing.
Sure.
Fumed silica will produce with a new process. Silica fume we will produce with the QRR as it comes out of our process. So it's not the same product. It's a much purer product.
You touched on Peter's quote earlier where he said this opportunity is a natural extension of the work we're doing with HPQ. And then further down it says, we were always taken by the myriad of exciting and potentially lucrative offshoots possible from our initial project with HPQ. Is this an example of how your one-step expertise could be applied to many more products going forward that are currently produced in we had that image up a couple of times, the preparation of fumed silica and flame, and the capital intensive, the energy consumption, the carbon dioxide, the horrible chloride gas. Is this an example of there might be many other fumed silica style products out there that we don't know about yet that you guys slowly will start attacking?
There could be, but at one point our plate is going to be pretty full. What I'm trying to do, in HPQ anyway, is to have multiple projects with significant potential of generating revenue, significant revenues, all right, being developed in parallel. Right? That way you're not fully dependent because, when you do R&D, something might take longer, something might take over. And I hear the criticism. People are going to say, why don't you just focus on making the battery stuff? The battery stuff, we can't go faster than it is, and it can't be accepted faster. So, if PyroGenesis has the capacity to have, and they do have the capacity to run multiple R&D projects that are advancing to commercial scale at the same time, why should we not take advantage? Why should we just focus ourselves on this? Because what's going to happen is not everything is going to work the way you imagine and dream about it. But it's going to work out. It's going to come out in phases. So if you have different projects along the line to always feed the loop of what you're developing, because that's what HPQ has now become. We're an innovative silicon-silica solution. We're presenting technical solution, and we're using plasma as a conduit for doing this. And so we're partnering with PyroGenesis, which are the number one, plasma expert. So what we're doing is implementing multiple end usage of plasma technologies in a concrete fashion toward a real market. There is demand for what we're doing. There is market in Canada. There's market in Quebec that can support more than what we're going to be producing once we have our pilot plant operational and those systems going on. So that's what makes it so exciting. When we started HPQ, we thought we would only have the solar industry, right? And if we didn't work in the solar industry, it would die. So what we're doing fundamentally is we're following Peter's philosophy of diversifying the risk by having multiple business line moving forward. So at one point, maybe something is going to take longer than you think, and something else is going to move faster. So we're going to have the Gen 3 operational. It's going to do the battery grade material we're looking for to make the nano powders for the batteries. That's a pretty exciting line. Those are two separate lines altogether.
Of course.
I think the QRR can be a great process by itself. We'll have the nanoparticles moving forward, and we'll have on this not on the side, but another project in parallel, which is the fumed silica development. As I said, the fumed silica is much more advanced than where we are. So I understand the concept that people might say we're evaluating, but the truth of the matter is we evaluated and we've decided to move forward. Now, there's other pieces to the puzzle that become clear afterward that sometimes we don't control when and what everything is discussed. But, I've sort of learned my lesson that I try to prefer to wait until the longest possible before I have to announce something because there's always delay. Like if I started to talk about this when we started to do this discussion, which was a year ago, people would say, oh, it's taking too long.
Smart strategy. Based on the feedback you've received from potential customers from the industry that they would be ready if you could produce the product, would it be correct to say that you'd be revolutionizing the production of fumed silica as well, and that there aren't any other competitors that on the horizon you can see who would do it in one step, cheap, low energy consumption, and most importantly, no greenhouse or a reduced greenhouse gases. Is it fair to say that what kind of reaction did you get from the market?
Yeah, when you use reduced greenhouse, it's all the same thing. It's energy required to do the material. So it depends how your energy is produced. It's the same thing with all type of process. So if you have a source of clean renewable energy to suffice you the energy to convert the material, then your product is going to be very, very clean, very, very carbon free. The other great advantage is that there are massive limitations right now to implementing additional capacity to produce fumed silica in North America, in Europe, because of the toxic material that are produced during the process. So that's a big limitation. Now we're entering a world where the idea that we would basically offshoot our pollution to third country is not a concept that's sort of accepted by companies. So so as this frame of mind becomes more and more, into the psyche of investors, because it's not us. You're hearing the biggest investment fund talking, we're going to make sure that all your processes are green. So there's billions of dollars going to be invested in this. So we're at the forefront of this technology. We're much more advanced. This is a material that industry needs to grow, and we're going to offer these end user a way to reduce their greenhouse emission and their environmental footprint. Okay, it's sort of a no-brainer because there's already a market for it. We don't have to develop the market. We already know how much it costs to do it. It's not very complicated for us to figure. We know what's their cost of raw material. They're using silicon metal to convert it. So we know silicon metal costs $3 a kilogram. Okay, we're going to be using quartz, which costs 50 cents a kilogram. Doesn't really take a brainer that we're going to be cheaper wherever the additional process are. We know they're an energy, balance and footprint, even if it's the same because we use plasma, sort of irrelevant because we don't use all the chemicals into it. So we know it's going to be economically feasible. It's going to be a good cash machine. Trust us, we've run the numbers internally. And the numbers, compare very, very well to the nano reactors battery numbers for probably even less investment to get us moving there. So I think this is an incredible opportunity that comes about because of HPQ's relationship with PyroGenesis that have been developed for many, many years, which has been mutually benefit to both companies and both shareholders.
Last question is, you just said there, financing, investment. There's a lot of money floating out there for clean, renewable energy, clean processes, all of this. As HPQ keeps building its portfolio, right? Do you expect to attract more and more interest? Not that necessarily you need it or you'll take it, but interest in financing the company from bigger funds, governments. It seems like there's a big change in sentiment, and we've always talked about about a clean economy, but since the Biden administration's come in, it seems like it's gone into overdrive. Does this just make you more and more attractive to receiving strategic money from companies that, hey, keep going?
Yes, it makes us more attractive. Now it's a question for us to get all our projects clearly presented to the investment class and going out there. We have the luxury of not needing to finance ourselves presently. So we have the luxury of being able to advance our project through our own, cash position right now. So it sort of gives us a luxury, because when you go see financing, they may want quicker offtake agreement. I've sort of been a very strong advocate of not taking an offtake agreement too early in the process. Because when you do that, the other party knows that you deliberately need that for the financing. So you get taken over the rake. And I think Nemaska Lithium is the best example of that. At the end, it was their offtake agreement that killed him, but it was their offtake agreement that allowed the project to take off. So I prefer to develop the product, to have a series of products. We believe internally that this fumed silica can be a nice little cash cow to allow us to develop the process moving forward, and the multiple things, because we're gonna, it's just the beginning. I want to have a steady farm R&D projects that we take to commercial state. That's what I want the company to be known for.
You're
And I think
planting the
that's what we're
seeds,
advancing.
harvesting, planting more seeds, harvesting. So at some
Yeah,
point, you're going to be at a point where
it's like
some
getting
products are coming to market and
Yeah.
other products are just being seeded.
Yeah, it's like something I've learned in the industry when I started doing this. You'll never find a buyer for your shares today. You have to start working on him many months before. Then he gets into the story. It's the same. It's the same thing. HPQ has been designed so that we have multiple business lines being developed. That gives us multiple capacity to impress the market, to exceed the market, to deliver good news, to move forward. Because when you do the type of project we are, there are phases which are sort of boring. There's nothing really, what's happening is under the water, so it doesn't look. But when we come up on the surface, then people really realize that we've advanced. So so it's one of the reasons why we kept low keyed about this. Now we're ready to move prime time to get this moving forward. And to make this a very compelling business proposition within what HPQ is doing. So,
Yeah, and given the success PyroGenesis had with multiple commercial lines based on its core technology and applications and pilotization, printing powders, the partnership with you, U.S. Navy, Department of Defense, it makes sense that you're following kind of the same path. So knock on wood, hopefully you're going to have the exact same success going forward. But
we are. I'm very excited about the future. This is another one of those nice little projects that moves forward. That can become big, and that could become a standalone company on its own.
Well, Bernard, look, thanks for joining us today, especially for this press release that kind of seemed like came out of left field. Glad to know that it's further advanced than first read kind of made it appear to be, and looking forward to hearing what the next advancements are, because it sounds like you guys are moving down the road pretty quickly.
Thank you.
For everybody at home, you've been watching or you've been listening by podcast to Bernard Tourillon, Chairman and CEO of HPQ Silicon Resources, trades on the TSX Venture and the stock symbol HPQ, and for our friends in the US, HPQFF. For those of you new, you got to do your due diligence. 2 ways to do that. Get to the Agoracom hub for HPQ Silicon. Take a look at the profile page. Get that 30,000 foot view, because we know there's a lot of deep technology applications here that aren't immediately apparent to people. And then hop over to the HPQ Silicon website from there, and you can see it right above Bernard, hpqsilicon.com, and do an even deeper dive. Don't say we didn't tell you so. 12 months from now, have a great day. See you next time.